Happening. Happy Wednesday morning to you and yours. Thanks for joining us. As always, it is very much appreciated. I do give you a warning. I'm actually taping this on Tuesday night because I'm going to minicamp today. So I'll be out there watching Drake May and company, but I wanted to get all of you some content. We'll get into the Patriots a little bit later. We'll start with Kristaps Porzingis. With the fact I'm taping this, please, if something happens that makes some of this content dated, don't yell at me. Don't at me. It happens. All right, we'll get to the Patriots, as I said, in a little while, but we start with Porzingis and this injury. Porzingis injured his ankle on Sunday night. We now have the latest. Doc Flynn, NBC Sports Boston, the 33rd team, a lot of different places that Doc Flynn has shared her work at. We all know who she is. She tweeted about this injury. She tweeted that Porzingis tore a small band of tissue in his inner ankle that holds, among other things, the tibialis posterior tendon in place, causing the tendon to pop out of its groove. The tib typically sits behind the bumpy bone on your inner ankle. If the band of tissue tears, the tendon can pop on top/in front of that bone. The tib post helps hold up your arch and is responsible for spring in your step. It aids in push-off. If the tendon is in the wrong place, it's hard for it to do its job, and it's painful. Tom Westerholm of the Boston Globe, he tweeted out that the Celtics weren't kidding when they said that this Porzingis injury is rare. A 2006 study said there were just 32 documented cases of this injury in all of English literature. So not only is Porzingis hurt again, but he's hurt with a very, very, very rare injury. Fantastic. Gary Washburn posted this to Twitter. Dr. Daniel Corazzi, an orthopedic surgeon at Cedars-Sinai and former Lakers consultant, told the Globe he's seen an injury like Porzingis's once in 25 years. He was optimistic about Porzingis's ability to play. Here's what Corazzi said. Quote, a lot of times the ankle and the tendon can be taped to allow play. There are even some braces that they can use that help protect the tendon. I don't think it's something that he's going to make worse by just playing, especially if he's just running up and down the court, and even some lateral movements may be okay. This can be a repetitive issue. If he has awkward landings or with his foot in certain positions that causes subluxation of the tendon, I don't think it's a season-ending injury. It is day-to-day, and they have to reassess him. It's something they'll have to treat with either taping or bracing and then reassess to see if it's stable enough for him to play. Lots of doctors tweeting, lots of doctor videos on Twitter. Of course, we have a lot of fans freaking out. We have a lot of people in the media jumping to crazy conclusions. Some say this is a pain tolerance issue. And I'm talking about the doctors, not necessarily the media peeps or the fans, with all due respect. But some doctors say this is a pain tolerance issue. Doc Flynn says he's not going to have spring. Very difficult to jump, to get up and down, right? That would make it difficult to play basketball last time I checked. Now, it should be mentioned that Porzingis, he continued to play after the injury. He was injured with about 3.5 minutes to go in the third quarter. He continued to play. And he continued to play well into the fourth quarter. And he did make some plays after this injury. He had a number of plays that you would watch and you'd say, yeah, he looks a little bit off, but he doesn't look like he's injured. He doesn't look like he won't be able to play. So really, who knows? It could be just pain tolerance. It could be a bigger issue. They could find a brace that keeps it in place and he feels comfortable enough to play. He might play and be limited, but he might still be able to play. We have no freaking clue. Here's how I am mentally approaching this. I am mentally prepared for Kristaps Porzingis to miss the rest of this series. And I think everybody watching this series, especially Celtics fans, we should treat it just as that. Porzingis is out. If he plays, great. If Porzingis gives you 10 minutes, awesome. But if he is unable to play, incapable of playing, and he said today with all of the media that he's going to play if the doctors allow him to play, The only way he's not going to go out there is if the medical staff tells him not to go out there. So he is preparing to play. But I'm expecting him to not play. I'm expecting the medical staff to say there's too much risk to re-injure. There's too much going on already. You were likely overcompensating for your calf injury, which hurt this injury or caused this injury. And we don't want you to do much of anything out there tonight. I'm just anticipating Porzingis not playing. I think mentally that would be best for all of us to approach it that way. And if he pops up and he plays, and if he gives you anything close to decent minutes, 10, 15 minutes, you take that and you run with it. Now, inevitably, the question is, if he doesn't play, if he is out for the rest of this series, how does it impact the series? How does it impact the Celtics? Well, they're not as good. Breaking news. They're not as good without Porzingis. And they're not as versatile without Porzingis. Defensively, KP's rim protection is gigantic. His rim protection really impacts the entire offense of Dallas because he's always waiting. He makes everybody uncomfortable trying to finish at the rim. And when you take that element away, you might see Dallas get a little bit more aggressive as far as taking it to the rim and trying to finish. Because the Celtics, as good as Al Horford is not necessarily the rim protector. He can defend, he can block shots, but he doesn't alter shots as much as Porzingis. He doesn't scare guys away from getting into the paint like Porzingis does. And he certainly doesn't block shots with the ease that Porzingis blocks them. And he also doesn't block shots from as far away as Porzingis can block shots. Porzingis can be 7 feet away from you, and because of his length, he can still block a jump shot. So this is 100% going to impact the defensive ability of the Celtics on the interior. There's no doubt about that. It also is going to impact their ability to knock down deep threes. We talked about this before the series tipped off. The depth of Porzingis' shots make it very difficult for teams to defend him on the pick and pop. Porzingis can take 29-footers. Horford doesn't necessarily take threes from, 3 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet behind the line. Al tucks those toes right up next to that three-point line when he lets it fly, which makes it easier to defend for Dallas on the pick and pop. That's going to impact things. Porzingis is a walking, running mismatch. And we saw that in game 1 in the first quarter when he went bananas. We saw some of that in game 2, even though he wasn't as effective in game 2 as he was in game 1. He is an incredible mismatch for the C's. When we talk about cheat codes, he's a cheat code. He can post up so many different players in so many different ways and just score over the top of them. Al Horford and the other bigs of the Celtics, Tillman and Cornette, they don't have that type of game. So you lose that mismatch ability with him in the middle. You lose the mid-range jump shot that he brings, which a lot of times can help the Celtics when their offense is stalling. So no Porzingis will impact this series. It's also going to impact Al because Horford now has to play 35 minutes, maybe even as many as 40 minutes in some of these games that remain. It's going to impact Al's minutes. It's going to impact his ability to cause havoc consistently throughout a game. He's 38 years old. We have to remember that. He's in great shape, there's no doubt. He's certainly going to put forth the effort. But to ask Al to play 35, 40 minutes, that's a completely different world than asking him to play 25 to 28. And so Al is going to be affected big time if Porzingis can't go. Big man depth, limited versatility with Luke Cornette and Xavier Tillman. I love the Tillman trade, but after watching him as a Celtic, it's rather obvious to me that Tillman is not right. The knee is a problem. He's not as athletic, and he wasn't a super athlete, but he could hang with smaller players defensively, and his lateral movement was stronger at times before his knee started acting up. He doesn't look super healthy to me when he's out there. He's a little bit behind. So Tillman, he doesn't bring the versatility on either side of the floor that Porzingis can, because Tillman, as good of a defender as he is at times, he doesn't have that length. Kornet, he can protect the rim, but Kornet has a major issue with smaller players on the perimeter. And I would have big-time hesitancy if I were Joe Mazzulla in playing Kornet, because I think Kornet would get roasted and toasted by Kyrie and Luka over and over and over again. They would immediately ask for that switch, and they would take Luke Kornet over and over and over again to the bucket and try to create opportunities for themselves or try to create those opportunities for their teammates. A Kornet might get a block or two, but I don't trust him defending Luka or Kyrie in space. No chance. So while he can protect the rim, he's more of your old school protect the rim kind of guy, and he needs to lurk around the paint. So you lose that defensive versatility, and Kornet also doesn't shoot the ball. He used to shoot the ball when he first came into the NBA. He used to shoot from three, but he never shoots. When Kornet's on the floor, you're playing pretty much 4-on-5 offense unless you can find him via a lob or he gets a putback off a rebound. So he would destroy any chance that you have in spreading the floor and playing 5 out, and so would Tillman, because Tillman hasn't been good from 3. So as far as big men, it could be Horford or bust for the rest of this series if KP can't go. With all of that said, the Celtics can still win this series. And many would say they should win the series. They're up 2-0. Dallas still needs to beat the Celtics 4 out of the next 5 games to win the title. The Celtics still have Tatum. They still have Brown. They still have Drew, White, and Horford. They are still a damn good basketball team with a 2-zip lead. And we also should not overlook the fact that the Celtics are 30-5 without Porzingis this year. 30-5. The good news and the bad news of injuries and KP and how he's out so often. You miss him because he's damn good at what he does, but the silver lining, you're used to playing without him. And you know how to play without him. So at least this isn't a situation where Porzingis played 75 games this year, and now this bomb gets dropped if he can't play, and you're scrambling to try to adjust. The C's and Joe Mazzulla, they were forced to adjust throughout the regular season and throughout the playoffs. They went 9-1 without KP through the Eastern Conference part of the bracket. So, you know, they're used to not having KP out there, and they're used to adjusting and figuring out ways to still win games, which is good. I would also, though, caution some people, because as I always talk about with the playoffs, it's all about the matchups. And just because you're 30-5 without Porzingis doesn't necessarily mean you're going to march right through Dallas. Dallas is a different matchup. They pose different problems. So it's certainly not a given. And I am not as confident in the Celtics being able to finish this series without Porzingis as I would be with Porzingis. They can certainly still do it. But it's going to be very difficult over the next couple of games or the next few games. What do I think the Celtics will do? I think we will see a decent amount of Jason Tatum play at the 5. I really think we'll see Tatum play 5 through major portions of these games the rest of the series if Porzingis is out. We've seen that Tatum has defended Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford. The Celtics have defended the centers of Dallas with Tatum and some others, and that has really hurt Dallas's ability to get those lob plays at the rim. It has caused all sorts of issues for them. So I would not be surprised whatsoever if you see even more of that with Porzingis off the floor if he is off the floor. Tatum's ability to play at the 5 against this specific team allows the Celtics more flexibility and versatility and adjustability in this series. Because when you look at the matchups, again, it's all about the matchups. You're not necessarily concerned by the offensive Lively or Gafford or even Kleba because it doesn't look like he can shoot due to his injury. So you can quote unquote steal minutes with Tatum at the 5. And what I mean by Tatum at the 5, I don't mean him defending the 5 because, again, he's done that in this series already a lot. I'm talking about literally playing him at the 5 and going 5 out. That would not surprise me whatsoever. If you try to steal some minutes with Tatum replacing some of those Porzingis minutes at the 5, when Porzingis would get off the bench and come on in the first 2 games, I think you could see Tatum slide over to the 5 to take care of some of those minutes. The key to this series is perimeter defense. And while Porzingis helps you and protects the rim, you still have your perimeter defenders. You still have Tatum. You still have Brown. You still have Holiday. You still have White. Horford has been tremendous, for the most part, defending Kyrie and Luka through the first 2 games. So with your starting 5, you don't miss much. We've seen the starting 5. They can play great basketball against the Mavs. They have a lot of good options to go to. And 1 through 5, they can defend pretty much everybody on the floor for Dallas. Now, they're going to give up Luka points, as we know. Kyrie might get a little bit hot over the next couple games because he's in Dallas, not being bothered by the Boston crowd and all of that. So maybe Kyrie makes some buckets. Luka gets going. But 1 through 5, when you start this game, you still have what you have, and you have an advantage, and you have a big advantage. Because your role players, your other guys, are much better than Dallas's other guys. A little less so without Porzingis if he doesn't play, but you still have those advantages. You can still defend Luka the way you've defended him for the most part, especially if you slide Tatum to the 5 when Porzingis would normally come in, because Tatum has that defensive versatility. Who comes in when Tatum needs rest? Who comes in when somebody else needs rest? I'll get to that in a minute. But looking at this in a vacuum, Tatum's ability to play 5 in this series helps the Celtics a huge amount. It allows you to stay structured defensively for 35, 38 minutes of a game. It's trying to figure out those other 10 to 13, 14 minutes that's going to be the issue, and not completely losing your ass during that 10 to 14 minutes. Porzingis was playing 23 minutes. He played 23 on Sunday night. He played 20 minutes or so in game 1. If you bump Al up 7 to 10 minutes, you're trying to find that other 10 to 13 minutes, right? That's what it's all about. You can recover some of that by sliding Tatum to the 5, but now you've got to replace Tatum and where he was playing with somebody else. Interesting. And it makes me wonder if the Celtics will go small versus bringing Kornet and or Tillman in these games. I would not be surprised whatsoever if the Celtics decided to go small and played Sam Hauser. I would not be surprised if Hauser gets more minutes. Why Hauser? Well, he allows you to go 5 out. Even though he's not making shots, you still have to respect his ability to make shots. He has that ability. One of the best 3-point shooters throughout the regular season, and he's had his moments in the playoffs. Dallas still has to honor Sam Hauser, so you don't lose the ability of the 5 out. If you go to Tillman, if you go to Kornet, if you go to O'Shea Brissett, you lose the ability to go 5 out. And the Celtics have shown they have a major advantage when they go 5 out because they space the floor, they get the matchup they want on the perimeter, and they let Tatum, Brown, Holiday, White penetrate, drive those open lanes, and look for open shooters. And you are able to keep doing that with Hauser on the floor. Cornette, Tillman, Brissett, it'll junk it up. Brissett could stand out there, but Dallas is going to be much less concerned with O'Shea Brissett than they would be by Sam Hauser. I also think Hauser, he has shown, especially in game one, he has shown the ability to defend. Is he a great defender? No. Is he going to give up points? Yes. But can he make it tough on Luka every once in a while? He has proven that he can make it tough every once in a while. He made it tough on Kyrie a couple times in this series. You're going to lose something. You know that. But defensively, Hauser is bigger than Peyton Pritchard, which makes him a little bit better of a matchup against Luka. You're not going to lose that size as much. And he's able to shoot. He's able to allow you to stick with your offensive game plan. So JT picking up some minutes at the 5, Sam Hauser getting a couple of more minutes off the bench to come in and help replace Tatum in his original spot, right? Tatum is obviously the 4. Porzingis is the 5 at times. Tatum's the 4 and Horford's the 5 at times. Well, now when Tatum slides to the 5, you can mess around and put Jaylen Brown at the 4, and you can put Hauser at the 3. You're not doing that for 10 minutes a game. You're doing that for a couple of minutes here, a couple of minutes there. If you can buy 2.5, 3 minutes in each half with Hauser playing, that's great news for the Celtics. If you can steal 5 to 7 minutes with Tatum playing a legitimate 5 position out there, great for the Celtics. They're going to have to use their versatility via their wings and guards. Does Porzingis' injury actually keep the Celtics more focused? It's something I've asked myself since we found out that, he could miss tonight. He could miss the rest of the series. And I could argue that Porzingis' injury will keep the Celtics more focused. They're 2-0 right now, right? Up 2 games to Zippo. 2 wins away from the NBA championship. Tatum and Brown, not to say that they were going to, but now they know. They have almost no margin for error. You're going to be in Dallas. You have to expect Dallas's best punch in game 3. They don't want to get down 3-0. And so I feel like if Porzingis isn't out there, it's going to cause everybody else to focus just a little bit more. And every Celtic is going to have to step up just a little bit more. And that could end up being a good thing. If they had Porzingis, maybe they don't show that focus right off the bat. And maybe they still won't. But it makes me feel more confident that they will show that focus from the tip because they know they don't have Kristaps Porzingis, if that's the case. And they can't have a 5 to 8 minute bad stretch of basketball because that could be the difference between a win and a loss when you don't have KP. Fascinated to see how they come out, especially Jason Tatum. Game 3 tonight in Dallas should be an interesting matchup. We'll see if Porzingis plays. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. First time I'm saying this during this podcast. Like, comment, and subscribe. Takes a second of your time. Doesn't cost you a penny, and it really helps out the podcast. So just take that second, like, comment, and subscribe, rate and review Spotify and Apple Pods. All right, let's jump to the Patriots. Is there a wide receiver making a surprise push for a roster spot? Andrew Callahan writing about the first day of minicamp on Monday. Jalen Reagor won on a variety of routes and tied for the most catches in team drills with 5. He caught 3 from Drake May, 2 from Jacoby Brissett. His connection with May bears watching. Evan Lazar wrote about Reagor. Reagor has emerged as a decent catch and run threat as the X-receiver on the backside of the formation. Depending on Kendrick Bourne's recovery timeline from his torn ACL, there could be 2 to 3 open roster spots at wide receiver. The favorites are KJ Osborne, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Reagor, but offloading Juju remains a strong possibility. I wouldn't be shocked if Jalen Reagor makes this team. Not at all. We've talked about it. You throw all of these wide receivers in a room. We know that Polk and Javon are going to make the team. We know that Pop Douglas is certainly going to make the team. Kendrick Bourne, as I've said, is likely to start the season on PUP. Take all the other receivers and throw them out there. And whoever plays the best earns a spot. It's as simple as that. You don't have an embarrassment of riches at the position. Have these guys compete. Best guy wins. Simple. If you've got Pop and you've got Polk and you've got Baker, those three guys on the roster week 1, born on PUP, you need at least 2 more wide receivers. So who shows up? Is it Tyquan? Is it Juju? Is it Rager? Who shows up? Is it Osborne? I wouldn't be surprised if Rager makes this roster. Juju's health is a big question mark. Can he get through the camp season, get through the preseason healthy? We'll see, because his health is a major question. Tyquan Thornton's health and his lack of production throughout the first couple of years of his NFL career make him a question mark. I would say that KJ Osborne is likely to make the squad, but he did drop some passes last year in Minnesota. And from what I've read, maybe I'll see it today at minicamp, from what I have read, he's had some dropsy issues early in camp. So if he's dropping the football all over the place, he might not make the team. I think he will, but it's at least a possibility. I don't know, 3%, 5%, 10%, a possibility that he gets outplayed by Rager. So I would not write Rager off. I would not do that. What could Rager bring? Well, he could bring speed. We know he's a fast dude, no doubt about that. He can bring the speed element to this offense, the speed element that you were hoping Tyquan Thornton brought. He can bring that. He's a downfield threat, as Evan Lazar wrote. Ex-receiver on that backside of the formation. He's done some things in camp so far. So if he proves his hands to be worthy, he's got that speed, he gets downfield, he can be an impact guy. I also think that Rager gives you the ability of, some yak. Gadget plays, jet sweeps, passes out into the flat, bubble screens, different kinds of plays because of his speed. Think about it. He's a return man. Get him in space. So it would actually make some sense to me if Rager ends up making this roster. Tyquan has to leapfrog him, in my eyes, because Tyquan's done almost nothing. And you could argue Rager has done almost nothing in his NFL. I get it. But if they're almost even and Rager is outplaying him in camp, and if Rager has a good connection with Drake May and May is making a charge at QB1, then you keep Rager. Maybe you keep Rager and Thornton and you cast aside Juju because Juju never gets it going. But I think the best approach here for the Patriots is to roll out all of these receivers and see who plays the best. And whoever plays the best, you have earned your spot. We know they're not dropping those other guys. We know that Polk's going nowhere and Baker's going nowhere unless something unforeseen happens. Pop Douglas is their best receiver. Certainly the best healthy receiver. Everybody else, have a football fist fight. Not literally, but figuratively at that position. So one of the players I'm watching at minicamp today is going to be Rager. I want to see if he pops. All right, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, rate, and review. Hopefully the Celtics come away with a win tonight in Game 3 down in Dallas. I will be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. I'll give you some thoughts, what I saw, the observations from minicamp, especially Drake May. Until then, be well. Thank you for spending your time with this podcast. As I always thank you for doing that. I appreciate you. This has been The Nick Cattle Show.